The newly discovered Earth-sized planet dubbed Kepler 186f is just about the same distance from its sun as we are from our sun. And astronomers say the planet is not too hot, not too cold, and could be habitable. Here with more on the significance of this discovery is SDSU astronomy professor Jerome Orris. Jerome, welcome.
Thank you.
Where is this Kepler 186f planet, and how is it similar to Earth?
So the Kepler 186 star is about 500 light years from the Earth. It's about half the size of our sun, so slightly cooler. The new planet 186f is roughly where Mercury would be if it were around the sun. And because its star is cooler, the temperature on that planet is similar to what you would find on the Earth.
And that's significant. I know NASA astronomers say that the planet is more like Earth's cousin. It's not
Yes.
Earth's twin because of the things you just said. But aside from the atmosphere, what are the key surface issues that you need to look at that would make this planet sustain life form similar to Earth's?
So we know the size. It's just about 10% bigger than the Earth. And so based on best guess models, it's probably rocky like the Earth. And so it would have a similar gravity. And so the question remains, what type of atmosphere does it have? The compositions, oxygen, CO2, things like that.
Yeah, and we're seeing some NASA animation. So it orbits like the Earth
Yes.
orbits our sun, but their sun's a little bit smaller, as you mentioned.
Yes.
What about as far as how much daylight it gets or sunlight? Are we able to tell that?
Yeah, so the orbital period is about 130 days, and so your year would be, a third the Earth year. And based on just the temperature of the star and the distance, the heat that you would get from its sun is about 20 to 25% of what you would get from the Earth's sun at the Earth.
So like at sunset here about versus,
Yeah.
what it would be like at noon.
Yeah,
here
so
at
that
the
heat
bright
is
sun.
enough that it's probably would have liquid water, but not hot enough that would, vaporize the water. And so it's just in that Goldilocks zone.
It is in that Goldilocks, in that Goldilocks place. You mentioned that the planet is about 500 light years away. What is that in miles? How many light years per mile? And how is NASA able to research a planet so far away?
Off the top of my head, I don't know how many light years per mile, but just say a few quadrillion, just as a wild
few
guess.
quadrillion, right.
But the Kepler spacecraft looks very carefully at the brightness of a few 100,000 stars, and if the planet passes between us and the star, it blocks a little bit of the light. And so the distance there doesn't matter, it's a matter of the brightness, and can you get enough data? And so Kepler routinely looked at stars of a few hundred to a few thousand light years away.
And that Kepler, we just saw some animation of it. That is a telescope that's out in space. How does that work?
So it's a space telescope. It's in an orbit which trails the Earth, and so it has a continuous view of in the constellation Cygnus. So it's got a very, very sensitive camera that can measure very tiny brightness changes. Unfortunately, one of the reaction wheels, which keeps it pointed, failed sometime last year, and so it's no longer collecting data on its primary mission.
And that was my next question. How long does it take to get that data back? Like the data we're looking at now, how fresh is that?
It's within the last year and a half. Typically, it would take 6 months to process because it's just a huge amount of data. Then it takes months to sift through the data to find these.
No, this is very exciting to people like us who just love, the stars and the planets and all that's out there in the universe. But realistically, how much can we expect to learn from this, telescope passing by and sending this data and the discovery of this new planet?
Well, it's more of a statistical thing. And so how many stars you look at, so many stars have planets. And so on a statistical basis, how common are Earth-sized planets, in their habitable zones? And that's a very interesting question, a very basic question to ask and answer.
And is this the first kind of planet that's in the habitable zone that we've actually discovered then?
It's the one closest to the size of the Earth in the habitable zone of its parent star. And so there are other planets that are larger that are known in the habitable zone. Probably they're more like Neptune or something, and you could.
And so for astronomers, this is how exciting is it to find a planet like this?
Oh, this is very exciting. As we're pushing to smaller and smaller sizes and more and more in the habitable zone, that's basically the primary mission of Kepler, and it's starting to pay fruit, and get results.
All right, well, we have a lot more of this and all the pictures and video on our website. Professor Jerome Orris, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.